Chris Scalzi here with
Matt Howell.
On this episode of the First Round, Matt and I settled in with a nice steaming bowl of hot dog soup and decided to check out two powerful stories about three dynamic women dealing with challenges in their own unique ways. First up, we're going to talk about Chloe Zhao's Nomadland featuring Frances McDormand. Then, of course, it's on to Florida via Nebraska as we go on a little vacation with Barb and Starbara to Vista Del Mar. We'll review the big releases on physical media featuring your straight-to-DVD and streaming picks of the week. And then finally, Matt and I will close out the big show with another round of life or death choices. You can just call it. Maybe it don't have to be so severe all the time. Either way, let's start everything off with a clip from Nomadland.
Bo never knew his parents, and we never had kids. If I didn't stay, if I left, it would be like he never existed. I couldn't pack up and move on. He loved Empire. He loved his work so much. He loved being there. Everybody loved him. So I stayed. Same town, same house. It's like my dad used to say, what's remembered lives. I maybe spent too much of my life just remembering Bob.
So Matt, let me ask you, Nomadland, first off, tell us what it's all about. And then I'm curious, do you think this is 2020's lead contender for Best Picture at this point? Or is just another kind of shallow green book, let's talk about one of the big issues of the day type thing?
You know, Chris, I always like how you pose these questions as an all or nothing kind of thing, you know?
That's right.
This is the story of a woman played by Frances McDormand, who was deeply invested in a town called Empire, Nevada, where the U.S. gypsum factory closed its doors in January, and by July, the entire town had gone belly up because it was so dependent on that industry. She is essentially houseless at this point, living out of a van, and it's really about her kind of living a migrant worker, nomad, if you will, lifestyle, meeting the people along the way and getting jobs and trying to survive.
So what do you think? It's gotten a lot of buzz, Matt, and it seems to be the odds are lead contender for Best Picture for 2020. So what do you think? Does it have a good chance there, or is that all just a bunch of hot air there?
I think it does have a good chance. Again, it's kind of a weird year, so I don't know if there is a ton of competition out there just because of what 2020 was. I really enjoyed this film. It's gotten so much buzz. I think it's like the odds-on favorite to win. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. It's a very kind of pensive, kind of artistic look at this quiet life or this different type of life. It's really got a kind of an Oscar baity feel to it. And I don't necessarily mean that as a negative, but it's definitely got the kind of thing that Oscar voters love.
I think so. I mean, it's got everything you're looking for, right? It's got the personal strife. It features a commanding performance by McDormand, as well as a strong supporting performance by David Strathairn. And then I think what Chloe Zhao does here in this film is something she'd done previously in the film I watched. I don't know if we did it for the show or not, but I know I watched it and I was really impressed with it, which is The Writer. It may actually even have been in my top 10 from 2017. I really was impressed with it, where she tells a story of this rodeo rider who gets severely injured, and the doctors tell him, listen, if you continue to do this, you could die. But it's his passion, it's his life, it's what he does, so he still wants to do it. And she actually brought in real people to fill these roles, and she does that again here with this. She brings in some actual nomads. The characters Linda, Swanky, Bob, and Derek are all people who live this life. Really the only professional actors I think we have in this thing, I think maybe some of the family members of Strathairn's character, but McDormand and Strathairn are really the main people that you're going to know in this film. And a lot of this thing is peppered in with just people who experience this life every single day. And her combination of the reality of that into this drama is really, I think, effective. I think it's one of the things I called it, Matt, was like Nomadland or the Magic Hour, the movie, right? The way this thing is shot, they really take full advantage of, if you're not familiar with that term, the magic hour, what is that, like dusk or something, or pre-dawn, where the lighting.
Yeah.
So it comes up with these really kind of beautiful. Then you have these wide open expanses that really, as I said, take advantage of this time. There are just some truly jaw-droppingly gorgeous shots. I'm talking like early Terrence Malick level artistry here with this stuff. And outside of that, you have this deeply intimate portrait of Fern as she's going through her version of life, just going from job to job in this geographic area, right, of Utah, Nevada, and kind of going back and forth, Arizona, I believe, at one point, and just finding work where she can. She occasionally gets help, encouragement, and then offered help, and she may take advantage of it from time to time. But I think at this point in her life, it's just not who she is anymore. And this thing really impacted me, Matt, on a deep level. Just, I wonder, like, do you have to be broken to embrace this type of life? Because it feels like the people who are doing it in the film, and again, remember, people, there are actual people doing that in this movie. Is it something you could embrace as a way to get away from the trappings of everyday life and the responsibilities that people have? Or is this something you really only would consider when you have no options left?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think there's people like this, not even just the nomad migrant worker lifestyle, but think of all the people who go live off the grid, or people who do what's the term for it? Not land grabbing, but like, I forget. There's a term, homesteading up in Alaska, where you can just go there, live off the grid, claim a piece of land as your own, and you just build it. I mean, there are people that kind of lifestyle appeals to. I think what's different about this one is obviously it's so transitory, and obviously there is a thing if you're living in a mobile home or a car, there's the logistics of keeping it running, the kind of dangers of where you're going to park, but there's a certain aspect of paring all that stuff down. So I think it's both. I think there are people who this truly fits for. I think they have a section where it's a guy talking about how he had PTSD from being in Vietnam, and this is really the only lifestyle he can deal with. And then there's the kids. I mean, they don't give you a lot of backstory, but she comes into contact with some younger people who may be doing this for their own reasons. So yeah, I don't know if you necessarily have to be broken, but I guess you have to be different, have a different outlook on things and what's important to the normal, or I guess the rest of what typical society is. And what's interesting about this, I really enjoy this. I think I agree with you. It's an absolutely gorgeous film. I feel though that this is based on a book, apparently, Nomadland, which is a nonfiction book, and that's always interesting to me, where somebody tries to adapt a book that's nonfiction into a fictionalized kind of thing. And I don't know. There's a lot of quiet moments in this, but it kind of kept it almost at arm's length a little bit for me. I certainly kind of resonated with the images and the things that were going on, but I couldn't relate to a lot of it.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if we have the perspective that she has. A lot of the people in this have really been dealt with some horrible cards that they have to try and pick up a lot of the times, the pieces of their lives, and move on. But as you said, there are some parts of it, though, that it's strangely attractive. Where they'll leave it all behind, even if maybe that's, for some of them, the only choice they have. But as I watched this thing, I really thought about, like, why do we work as hard as we do for so little in the grand scheme of things? I'm talking like cosmically, right? I mean, we sacrifice our families, our lives, our happiness for our jobs, for food and shelter, basically. And how our passions get shuffled off into hobbies because we can't pay our bills or have health care without that typical 9-to-5. And this is an outlet. This is an opportunity for some people who don't want to do that, right? Who'd rather live kind of that more uninhibited free life. But I don't know. Like I said, it's not for me, I don't think. If I couldn't see your face every week, I don't know if it's something I'd want to carry on.
Yeah, I know that is I'm glad to know that's the one thing that's anchoring you to to society. But I agree with you, but I don't know. I think it's a little different. I mean, yes, we work so hard for so little, but just think about, honestly, what's the quote? Like the now is the best time in human history ever. I mean,
sure.
You and I, we don't have to like work all day just to feed ourselves. Like I live in Connecticut. It's cold right now. Like if I hadn't saved up enough for the winter, we could seriously die, or if there's a drought, like we don't have to work as hard just to survive. And now what we're concerned with is not just survival, but fulfillment and those kinds of things. And that's what's important. So maybe another 100 years, 200 years from now, it won't be just fulfillment. It'll be something like bettering society. I think we're moving in increments, and there's always going to be people that are kind of on the outside. I think the really striking things for me are not necessarily the people who've chosen this lifestyle, because to an extent, I think Fern is a victim of her circumstances, but she also made some conscious choices that she has to live with, and those are on her. And I think like the things that really hit are a lot of these people are older, and they're like, I've worked for however long and the government Social Security is failing me. Like they didn't save because was never drilled into them. But at the same time, there's not enough left in Social Security to get them by. So it's like, what are these people supposed to do?
And there's some people who don't have the ability to save. The people who live paycheck to paycheck for the majority of their lives.
Well,
and it's not some moral failing for that to have happened as well.
No. It's
one of the big issues we have in this country when people who are rich are looked at as virtuous, and people who are not, it's a personal failing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a whole religious Christian fundamentalism. Yeah, that's a whole different thing about that. But I mean, but just think about you and I. I mean, there were probably plenty of times throughout our working life, and we're not that old, where we were living paycheck to paycheck, but we were still investing in our 401ks, because the reality was we've learned from the older generations that Social Security is not going to save you, and there's no pension. So if you want to survive, it's on you. And even though maybe we couldn't really afford to really do those things, or it made things more difficult, we still saved. And that's only because, and I'm not saying that's a failing of them, I'm just saying they weren't given that message. They were sold something different. And then when the time came to collect, it's not there anymore.
Yeah, I think we could discuss that for a while. I don't know if I buy into that as much, but I understand what you're saying. And to actually get back to the film before we go off on this big sociological discussion about this kind of stuff, I just want to state that, again, McDormand is fantastic in this. She inhibits this kind of quiet determination, this vulnerability at times as well, but this inability and maybe fear to connect, right? She has opportunities over and over again, and she just gets back on the road and starts over again, and at times it's sad. And really, that's, I think, what Zhao brings us in the end. A thoughtful, beautiful, and sad illustration of the people left behind. It's still a striking film, I think, that you should see, Matt. I do think it's the lead film for Best Picture. And again, remember, for us this year, this will be treated as a 2021 movie for the first run. But for your Oscar campaigns, I think this is the odds-on favorite, I think, right now. And I gave Nomadland an A. Do you have anything else you want to add? And then give me your grade.
No, I mean, I appreciate that it's not really something that's romanticized. It's not necessarily something that's condemned either, but it habits this strange middle ground. And I think it's a gorgeous film. I don't know. It's one of those films, like, it's sitting with me strangely. I don't know how. It certainly is taking up residence in my mind rent free. So there's that. I think I'm going to give it an A-. I think it is the strong contender for best film of 2020. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to sit with it.
Yeah, just something about it that didn't quite connect with you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I appreciated the images, I appreciated the performance, I appreciated the way it was structured, but it's something about it just left me at arm's length. And that's probably by design, and maybe that says more about me, but if I'm personally giving it a grade on how I connected with the film, that's what I'm going to give it.
Fair enough. Nomadland is currently streaming on Hulu and is playing in theaters. And also, again, as I said, The Rider, unfortunately, is not streaming anywhere, but you can rent it pretty much everywhere for $4. So if you enjoyed Nomadland, I would suggest you double it up with The Rider. Or even, as I've brought up before, another film in a similar vein is Kelly Reichardt's Wendy and Lucy, featuring a fantastic performance by Michelle Williams. So, all right, if you've seen Nomadland, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's spend a few minutes to talk about what's coming up on your physical media picks this upcoming Tuesday. March. We're already in March. March 3rd. So what are Mila Jovovich and her husband, Paul W.S. Anderson, up to nowadays, huh?
Falcon Main, this is Bravo team. Do you copy? Storm incoming. Send immediate support.
Captain.
What'd you find?
It's definitely Bravo team, but the tracks end here.
They can't just disappear.
Where the hell did that come from?
Back in the vehicle! It's gaining on us!
What the hell just happened?
On our 6!
Holy.
How did we get here?
Of course, that is Mila Jovovich in Monster Hunter, another video game adaptation from Mr. Anderson. This time, behind our world, there is another Matt, a world of dangerous and powerful monsters that rule their domain with deadly ferocity. Jovovich plays a lieutenant in the military and her loyal soldiers who get transported to this new world and have to find a way to survive. Includes an HDR presentation of the film in Dolby Atmos if you get the 4K set, some deleted scenes, and 3 making-of featurettes. I think we'll do this for the show. It's on the calendar, I believe, so, and I think relatively soon, but we'll talk about that, I'm sure. Mike Coulter and Hilary Swank star in Fatale. After a one-night stand, a successful married man finds himself entangled in a cunning police detective's latest investigation. I feel this movie gets remade like every year. We see this film about the actor or the guy who has to go up against the obsessed woman from the one night stand, which I guess we kept getting the Fatal Attraction redux every year for like the past 5 years. Shudder is releasing Scare Me, a film we did for the show a while back with Aya Cash and Josh Rubin about the 2 writers who get stuck in the cabins in the Catskills during this horrible storm without power, and they decide to tell themselves some scary stories. We rather enjoyed that one, and definitely worth checking out. All My Life, featuring Jessica Roth, who we're a fan of from her work in Happy Death Day, both of those films. A couple's wedding plans are thrown off course when the groom is diagnosed with liver cancer. Well, that doesn't sound like fun. The adaptation of Pinocchio with Robert Benigni is being released, Matt. So if you wanted to check that one out, you finally can. There's a documentary about Frank Zappa coming out called Simply Zappa. I never got into Zappa, Matt. What about you? Are you a fan of Frank's?
I respect Frank, and I have a couple of his albums, but I was never a huge fan.
Yeah, I don't even know if I could name a song. When I was in high school, I had a friend of mine who was big into Frank Zappa. He was more of a Doors fan, but he liked Zappa a lot too. But I can't even come up with one because I'm not a music fan. Sure,
Apparently
okay, that one. You're right. I know of that one. That'll work. Shot Factory is releasing 400 Bullets. It's an edge-of-your-seat military action story, Matt, about what it means to fight for honor instead of profit. The film packs gun battles, epic hand-to-hand fight sequences, and witty dialogue in its 90-minute runtime. Man, they're like really talking directly to me, aren't they? Audio commentary with the writer-director Tom Patton, behind-the-scenes featurette. Crazy Samurai, 400 verse 1. When a master samurai arrives to duel the disgraced Yoshiaka Dojo, he walks into an ambush. In the world's first 77-minute one-take action film, Matt. Miyamoto Musashi fights for his life against 400 warriors, earning a place in history as the Crazy Samurai Musashi. I got to tell you, I'm interested in watching a one-take 77-minute action film.
All right.
Half Brothers, a story about the complex connection with a brother who is based in Mexico, meant to be a metaphor of the relationship between the neighboring countries of America and Mexico. Features audio commentary with the director Lou Greenfield, some deleted extended alternate scenes, and more. New to Blu-ray, Vinegar Syndrome is releasing Dark Tower when a window washer falls to his death from the side of a Barcelona high-rise office building, also killing an unsuspecting pedestrian. Security consultant Dennis Randall is called in to investigate. Although he first believes the death to be accidental, he soon comes to realize some strange forces are at work inside the building. What could be causing these accidents, Matt? More importantly, is there any way it can be stopped? Vinegar Syndrome is also releasing the Robbie Benson film Jeremy, brand new 2K restoration of that one, where he plays a shy cellist who meets an upperclassman ballet dancer at school. They experience first-time love, then happenstance pulls them apart. She's the Man, the 2006 film, is getting a Blu-ray release. Kino Lorber is releasing Nothing But the Truth and My Favorite Blonde. There is a War of the Worlds 15th anniversary Steelbook 4K release coming out. And then finally, Matt, your straight to DVD pick of the week. I went with The Vampire Virus. A young woman contracts a deadly virus after an unusual, air quotes, encounter, and soon develops a taste for human blood. I don't know why it's always human. It's never like gerbil or raccoon, chicken. Nope, always human. But you can check that out in Vampire Virus. What should we be streaming this week?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Jessica Roth and Happy Death Day, because that's what I'm going to recommend in advance of our, I believe we might be doing Free next week. So in advance of that, we are going to recommend that. It's available on HBO Max, a pretty fun horror comedy that is surprisingly better than it should be.
Yeah, I keep changing things all the time. In fact, I did change it again. But we can bring in Freaky again. I keep moving stuff around. I can't be contained, Matt. I just can't make up my mind.
Well, and I can't keep up with you, so we're a perfect pair.
There you go. All right, Matt, let's spend a few minutes and discuss Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, or the film that Mrs. First Run made me turn off after 6 minutes. So let's take a listen.
Another whiskey, please.
Room number again, please, sir?
611.
6'11"? Oh my, Barb. Oh my gosh, he's 6'11". 6'11"? We're in 124. We're in room 124. And you're... Wow. I'm Barb, and this is Star. And you are?
Edgar.
Edgar?
I'm sorry. I'm having a bad day.
Oh, no. Are you not going? That's what's happening with us. Traveling really stops you up. I mean, my stomach, it's like just a bunch of rolled up socks in there, all in line trying to get out. It's like a traffic jam.
No, work stuff.
Oh my gosh, we have work stuff too. We just lost our dream jobs. It's been really hard.
It is tough to lose your dream job. Matt, nothing really, I think, encapsulates what this film was about more than that room number gag that we just heard in the clip. I really, if I had to describe somebody or play you one scene, I think it would be exactly that. So you know what you're getting into with Barb and Star. So, Matt, as I said, Mrs. First Run was not vibing on this at all. And I think I saw this online, and I think that's true. This film is, if anything, a vibe throughout its entire runtime. So let me ask you, great comedy or greatest comedy?
I don't know if it's the greatest comedy. I still think, even within Adam McKay's thing that has his hands on it, there are things that are much better than this. But I think this is something that's going to age particularly well, and it's going to become a cult favorite. I mean, the second the paperboy was singing Guilty, like while he was delivering papers, I was all in on this movie. I was like, man, that is I forgot how much I liked that song. And so I had to groove on it a couple times today.
I've done that. I have been on my bike and listened to that song. Listen, nobody writes a catchier tune, I think, sometimes than Barry Gibb. All right, he did that whole album with Barbra Streisand, and that duet he does with her for Guilty is just really some top shelf stuff. So if you're not familiar, Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar features Kristen Wiig and Annie Momolo. I apologize, Miss Momolo. They're two women working at Jennifer's Convertibles, and they unfortunately lose their jobs, and they decide to go on a trip and get embroiled in this crazy little adventure. I think that's all I'm going to say. I think the less you know about this thing, the better, because it is just, and it's almost hard to quantify in a way, because it's so bizarre at times and so weird. but I think you really kind of have to go with the flow here. I mean, this thing is corny, ridiculous, but it's an absolute delight. I kind of figured it, Matt, for me, one of my favorite things when I still watch Saturday Night Live, which I haven't, which sounds like a very pretentious statement on my part, but still, I haven't watched it in a while now, is I always loved the last sketch of the night, which is when they put up the weirdest thing, you know, like if they have this time, this really just wacky thing. And that's kind of what this film reminded me of, is the final SNL sketch of the night. Few minutes to go, let's get weird, right? I don't know, what'd you think? What did you really, though? But I appreciate it. So you think this could be a cult classic, huh?
I think so. I mean, it's got one of kind of Kristen Wiig's characters. She's played this character, a version of it, on Saturday Night Live many times. Just kind of this, I don't want to say ditzy necessarily, but like this person that's trapped in like the early 90s, late 80s, never really advanced past that. But in the jokes, I don't know if they're going to be for everybody. So I think there's going to be a large contingent. Again, even like with something like Anchorman was not well received when it first came out, but it kind of slowly developed a following and how great it was. And I think that's what's going to happen here, especially the musical numbers in this thing. Like they just they're long musical numbers that just kind of come out of nowhere with all this production value and everything like that. And just the kind of gentle ribbing of Florida and its quote unquote culture, if you will, is fantastic. I don't know. I don't know if the jokes necessarily are jokes, but there's a lot of pitter patter. The humor's hidden within the dialogue, and it's more in the delivery for a lot of things. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. Even Kristen Wiig playing dual roles in this with the antagonist as well was a nice touch. It's just an odd film. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but it just the whole thing is just odd in a good way. Yeah,
and I like too that Kristen Wiig's character's full name is Sharon Gordon Fisherman, which I didn't know. I thought there was a clip at one point where they said like her name was actually Momoa's name is actually just Barb. It's not Barbara, and hers is Starbara.
Starbra, okay.
But I didn't hear that, so I don't know if I just made that up. And I want a little shout out too for Jamie Dornan, who I have been less than impressed with in a lot of the stuff I've seen him, and he is a lot of fun in this film. He plays, well, I don't want to say. Let's say he's a romantic love interest, right? For our character or characters, and it is a blast watching him. Andy Garcia shows up, and possibly one of my favorite cameos of all time. There are so many great gags here, Matt. The ringtone one, I almost choked because I was laughing so hard. It's so simple, but so just subtly brilliant. And that's one thing I was really impressed with, is how many of the jokes hit. Right? Like if I had to give you a percentage, I'd be like in the, I don't know, high 80s, low 90s of the jokes in this film that actually did hit for me, which is rare, unfortunately, for a lot of comedies for me nowadays. I don't know if I'm just jaded and old and nothing really feels fresh anymore, but this does. And it has that Anchorman feel to it. You're entirely right. That's when I'm watching this thing, and that kind of, that same vibe, that same feeling that I had watching Anchorman. So don't be concerned. There are no divorce proceedings that have been started because of this. But I wondered.
You would be in the right. You would be in the right too.
Really,
no,
impressive.
The judge would sign it, rubber stamp.
Exactly. Thank you. So, but impressive stuff here. I want to see a sequel too. I just got to figure out where I want them to go next.
Right. So. I guess somewhere out I would say for weird, like adult culture, I would have to say somewhere out in the Southwest, somewhere in Arizona, maybe. If there's I
feel that's too close to them. I'm thinking more like in Australia or something like that.
You think so? You think Barb and Star are going to have enough funds to go to Australia?
They could win a trip or something. You never know.
I see.
I'm not going to sweat that detail on how they get there. All right. Who knows? Yeah, maybe.
I don't think Australia's the right answer. They need to go to New Zealand. If it's going to be somewhere like that, it's got to be like the lesser Australia.
Lesser Australia. Got a lot of upset Kiwis, Matt, with that.
I know we're big. We're big in New Zealand. I've just really cut like the knees out of a huge portion of our listenership.
Way to go. So, yeah. A-, Matt. Barb and Star gets an A- from Dad. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to give it, Uncle's going to give it an A- as well.
Very good. It's been a good couple weeks.
It has been. It's pretty solid.
Starkly different films, I think, all four. But Juice the Black Messiah, St. Maud, Nomadland, and now Barb and Star. This has been the show's been fun. Wow. I've been enjoying it.
That's what happens when you get stuff that carries over from 2020 instead of our usual first quarter dregs that we're subjected to.
Indeed. Well, yeah. Thanks to the power of Trish, Barb and Star really is a comedy to see. It is available to rent everywhere. You're going to pay a premium price, folks. I'm sorry to tell you. It's $20 right now to rent it. But if you need a good laugh, especially in these days and times, I think these ladies do deliver. So if you've already seen it, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. All right, Matt, let's call it. Again, a meme that has blown up film Twitter, where you got to choose one film or another. Something that we pioneered on this show 10 years ago.
We've been doing it for forever.
And also, too, I saw on film Twitter late yesterday and early today about people complaining about Promising Young Woman and the Blu-ray cover for that's coming out. And I complained about that like 2 weeks ago. Again, we're ahead of the curve. We're starting these trends. Well, I guess we're not starting the trends, but we're out there.
We're on the edge of the trends. That's
it.
where we are. We're on the bleeding edge. What's the deal with I haven't seen. What's the thing with
it's horrible. Just look at the cover. It's one of those. It's one of those, graphic design is my passion type memes. All right. It's just, it's really bad.
All right. I'll take a look.
Fair enough. All right, folks. It's time to call it. We're going to make some choices. Let's get rolling.
Dallas? You're going to have to hold your position for a minute. I've lost the signal.
What? You sure?
Look around. Are you sure that it's not there? I mean, it's got to be around there somewhere.
Checked it out, Lambert. You may be getting interference.
Dallas, are you sure there is no sign of it? I mean, it is there. It's got to be around there.
Dallas?
All right.
Am I Claire Lambert? I want to get the hell out of here.
Oh, God, it's moving right towards you. Move, get out of there. Moving towards you, move. Down. Move, down. Move, down. Get out.
Ooh, I wonder if Dallas gets out of there. So if you're not familiar with, which I couldn't believe, that of course is a clip from the film Alien. So if you're not familiar with Call It, folks, this is where Matt and I give each other two scenarios, two films, two directors, two actors, whatever. And you got to make a call on one or the other. So Matt, bird in the hand or not? You ready?
Ready.
Ridley Scott or Denis Villeneuve? So do you want Scott's oeuvre of work, or do you want Villeneuve's and the promise of the rest of his career? So with Ridley Scott, you're getting Alien, Blade Runner, right? But you do get stuff like, I don't know, G.I. Jane, Hannibal.
Right.
A Good Year. Robin Hood. Oh, God, Robin Hood was really bad. But you do, and then with Denis Villeneuve, you've already got Prisoners. I'm not the biggest fan of Enemy. Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, your upcoming Dune. Who are you going with?
That's really tough. I think. So let me ask you this: if I get rid of Ridley Scott, do the movies that he directed not exist?
Right.
Okay. Then I guess I have to go with Ridley Scott. As much as I am underwhelmed by a lot of his later work, if we don't have Alien, then we don't have Aliens, which may be a perfect film. And we don't have... And what's really weird is that without Blade Runner, there's no Blade Runner 2049, which I absolutely adore.
Well, so we'll just say it was directed by a different director, I should say. Somebody else makes Blade Runner. It's Nicholas Regg or... I don't know.
Blade Runner 2049? Yeah, I guess then I'd have to go. I would have to go with Ridley Scott just for on the sheer weight of those two films alone. As much as I really like what Denis Villeneuve is doing and how much I'm looking forward to his new projects, I think that's what I got to go with.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I think that even though Villeneuve's stuff has been top shelf, I mean, really just some stunning work. When it comes to me and favorites and films I revisit, I watch Alien at least once a year. I watch Blade Runner at least once a year, right? And I mean, even though there's an Exodus, Gods and Kings, there is some really great stuff in here that I think I just wouldn't want to lose. Now, maybe when things are all said and done, Villeneuve's career, I may revisit that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But right now, and then there's the X factor, I think, too. Do we get Tony Scott's over if Ridley Scott doesn't exist? And I don't know if I want to lose Tony Scott as well.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, because then you'd be losing too. I don't know. Just for Aliens alone, like I can't lose that film. I love that as much as I like the first one. I can't lose the second one. I can't. I just can't do it. So weirdly, the Abrams Star Trek is on TV all the time. So I've kind of half caught up with a lot of them when I haven't really seen. I haven't really watched them recently. So my question is this. Would you rather not have the Abrams Star Wars and then not get Last Jedi? Or would you rather not have the Abrams Star Trek?
I'm not sure if I follow you. So I can get the Abrams Star Trek reboot, but I lose Rise of Skywalker?
No, if you don't, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying like get rid of Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker, but you keep Last Jedi. Like basically you eliminate that entire, sequel trilogy. They're all three of them are gone because you don't have Abrams to base everything off of. And then the same thing, either that or you get rid of all of the Star Trek ones. Oof. Even the last one made by Justin Lin.
So do I never get Star Wars sequels? Or I just don't get
You probably get Star Wars
versions?
sequels, but they're going to be vastly different.
I don't think I'd have a problem with that, to be honest with you. I don't... Like, Force Awakens is fun. I love The Last Jedi. So you know where this show's sets up camp is in The Last Jedi. But I think, for all its faults, I think Star Trek... Was it Into Darkness? Is it the tagline for the con one?
Yeah, that's the con one, yeah.
Still has some great moments in it. That first film is fun. And I think... And even Justin Lin's Beyond is pretty damn entertaining. And basically, it's Fast and Furious in a Star Trek film. I mean, they even have a motorcycle stunt at one point. But I think I got to go. I think I like the cast better, too. I think that Pine's Kirk, right? And Carl Urban's McCoy, and even Quinto Spock. Yeah. Simon Pegg is Scotty. Yelchin is Chekhov. Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards Abrams Star Trek. I think I am.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think I would go. It's not, and that's not really a comment on the quality of Abrams Star Trek, although it is relatively fun. I think it's more of a condemnation on how much I don't like the sequel trilogy. And I really think what really solidified that much is Rise of Skywalker, knowing what all those two previous films are building to, that massive kind of letdown turd. I would not be sorry to get rid of them. I wish they would just excise them completely. I wish they never happened, to be quite honest with you.
But you prefer them over the prequels, right?
Oh yeah. I definitely. God. Can I tell you? I know I've mentioned this more than once on the show, but it baffles my mind that there are Star Wars nerds out there who will like fight you on how the prequels are actually good films, and I don't understand it at all. And like my nephew, who's like 4 or 5 now, he absolutely adores the sequels. So when he's like 20, he's going to be making the same damn argument how great those sequels are. Yeah. And they're just wrong. They're incorrect. Get off my lawn. Old man yells at clouds.
All right, Matt. Horror directors, Argento or Romero? And then I have a follow-up to that.
I got to go with Romero. I mean, I think Night of the Living Dead is one of the best films, horror films, period. Not even just the kind of ground cornerstone of the genre. Yeah, I think it's going to be Romero for me, hands down, despite the interesting artistic films that Argento made.
I think Argento has a stronger body of work than Romero does.
I agree.
And that's why I go back and forth. So in the end, I think I would go with Argento personally, just even though his later stuff too just fell off a cliff. But that 70s work is just deep red, Tenebra, Suspiria, of course. All that stuff is just fantastic. Yeah, I just think that outside, though, those first two zombie films are absolute just classic legendary movies. The third one's pretty good. And even the Land and Survival of the Dead too are okay. But there's other stuff too, isn't quite the crazies. The remake of that is far superior, unfortunately, than Romero's original.
Right.
And then some of his lesser known stuff too is mostly okay. I'm not sure. I think the artsy snob in me probably goes with Argento.
Yeah.
But then the follow-up for you then is Night of the Living Dead or Suspiria. No impacts at all, right? Just which film do you prefer?
I would say Night of the Living Dead, I think. Again, I think just what they were able to accomplish, and just even with these kind of unknown actors who never really did anything else again, and just the vibe and everything else that they set up in that is just chef's kiss, fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I think I go with Suspiria again. I think it's just a cooler, weirder kind of film. So, all right, there you go, folks. There's your dividing line on the show when it comes to the horror stuff. I'm more artsy, flashy, weird mood, music and creepy stuff. And Matt likes his political commentary with his zombies. And I
don't know if I'd say that. I just like I like quality. I like a good story.
There you go.
Not the insane ramblings of somebody who's probably drunk.
Fair enough. Put the cannoli down and direct the scene, Dario. All right, what do you got?
Do you want the Golden Globes to be more like the Oscars, kind of stuffy and high production and serious, or would you rather have the Oscars to be more like the Golden Globes, where the audience is kind of drunk and it's more of a less serious, self-important thing?
I'd like a mix of both, personally. I'd like to have because the problem with the Globes is I think half the time it's just a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
But the Oscars can be pretty crappy too. Yeah, in the end, if I had to choose one or the other, I don't get to do a hybrid version of the two, then I'd probably stick with the Oscars because I'm a pretentious prick.
Yeah, I'm in my mind, I'm keeping the integrity of the Oscars, but I would like to see them loosen up a little bit. I mean, it's not that important, guys. I understand there's a lot of people putting in work in this stuff, and it's the modern arts movement of our time still is cinema, but you guys need to chill, okay? You're not solving world hunger, okay? It's just a movie.
I don't know. Some of the speeches are pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So, Matt, let me ask you then. Here's my last one. You ready?
Yeah,
and
I
swear I've probably asked this before, but again, I'm just going to do it because that's how I roll. I'm still not sure as I ask you this question. Alfred Hitchcock or Steven Spielberg?
Oh, boy. I think Alfred Hitchcock is the more important and artistic filmmaker, not to take anything away from Steven Spielberg, but I would have to go with Steven Spielberg just for pure enjoyment factor. I can watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. I don't care how many times I've seen it. It's still so much damn fun. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Whereas I appreciate the challenge of Hitchcock's work and all the stuff that you can kind of dig into. But honestly, if you put 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, if you say, what movie do you want to watch and give me the choice of one of the two, I'll probably pick the Spielberg one. So I would go with Spielberg.
I hadn't thought of it that way because my gut is Hitchcock, of course.
Right.
But going with that criteria, you're probably right. That would be Spielberg. I mean, you got Jaws, Close Encounters, Raiders, E.T.
Man, E.T. still moves, and when he flies across that damn moon, I get a little choked up every time.
Saving Private Ryan, of course. Ready Player One. I know you love that one.
Oh, that was great. Yeah. Minority Report.
That's right. The
War of
film
the Worlds.
Trying to convince myself to watch. Yeah, I don't. But man, there's so many Hitchcock films that I absolutely adore, and I probably have watched more Hitchcock films with repetition than I have Spielberg films. Though I probably watched Raiders more than any of them.
Yeah.
But as a combined thing, like I watch Rope like 3 times a year, basically every year for the past like 20 years.
Rope is one of your favorite films.
I don't know what
talk
it is.
about it ad nauseum.
I know, it's the drive of the 1948s. I don't know if you see that too. Riffin tweeted out they're doing a 4K release of Drive.
Oh, really?
Or the film that should not be named. So
yeah,
I'm very excited about that. Anyway, I think I'm going to go Hitchcock. I think.
All right. So I'm going to
wait. I got my 244 too, just to make it more difficult for you. So their most critically loved works, like the artistic zenith of these two artists.
Yeah.
Vertigo or Schindler's List. Again, no impacts downstream.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Vertigo just because it's a more enjoyable film because it's not about one of the worst times in modern history. That makes me sad. So I'm gonna go with Vertigo because, again, if you put those two in front of me, I'm gonna be like, yeah, let's watch that one.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I bought Schindler's List on 4K like a year ago, and I still haven't cracked that sucker open. Yeah. I had it on DVD, and it was like $10. So I'm like, I'll upgrade the 4K, and it's been sitting on my shelf ever since.
Yeah, it's that is not one that you're just like, oh, let's just watch this, let's just watch Schindler's List. So let me ask you this. So I had one, I didn't write it down, but I've already forgotten it in this discussion. So I'm gonna make a piggyback off the one that you just asked.
Yeah.
So does it change your decision where Mr. Score Guy, you don't get Bernard Herrmann versus you don't get John Williams scores?
I like Morricone more than I like Williams.
Even
though the Star Wars Superman scores are, I'm sorry, you said Bernard Herrmann. Sorry.
Yeah.
The Superman and Raiders scores are iconic, and Star Wars, of course, and I guess most of John Williams' scores are iconic. But I think I go Herrmann. I think his score for Vertigo is so beautiful, and I listen to it to this day. Same with Psycho and North by Northwest. Man. See, that's the internal struggle I have, Matt, is the faux intellectual that I am, right? Really loves Morricone. I keep saying it. Loves Herrmann's work a lot.
Yeah.
And when I listen to scores, I do tend to go to, I focus mostly on Herrmann and Morricone, the two I listen to the most.
Mm-hmm.
The Williams ones, I think, for me, are probably a little overplayed for me. I've listened to them so much when I was younger that I can't. Though, I mean, I think Planet Krypton from Superman is one I listen to often. And, of course, the main theme. But outside of that, I don't really go back to it at all. And same thing with Raiders. There's a couple keys, a couple moments in that I go back to. But I will listen to Vertigo from start to finish. I will listen to North by Northwest. I will listen to Psycho. Yeah, so I would go with Herrmann.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think I would say Herrmann as well, just from it's much more. This is going to be very snobby to say, but the only way I can think of to say it's more musical. It's more like listening to a symphony. It's something listening to a work, whereas listening to Williams is like listening to pop music, and I think it's more emotionally reactive because it kind of puts you back in those places when you were a kid. But I think I would go with Herrmann as well. Now, my follow-up, apropos of nothing, so Herrmann or Morricone?
Okay, here's the problem. As I like Morricone's scores more.
Yeah.
But the love theme there, I'm blanking on the name of it now, from Vertigo, is one of the most beautiful pieces of film music I've ever heard in my life. And I listen to it often. But Morricone was so much more. He was a lot more diverse. He brought a lot to it. He wasn't just a spaghetti western guy. I mean, his score for The Thing is just fantastic. I listen to that a lot too. So if I had to choose one or the other, I'd probably go with Morricone. I think so. That pains me.
Yeah.
Oh, but man,
wow, you look like you're staring off into the void right now. Like you're looking at your staring off into the middle distance there.
That Vertigo thing is just so. That score is so great. I guess it's more gun to my head. Not to be violent about it, I'd probably go Morricone. I mean, the score. Yeah. Yes, you know why? Because Once Upon a Time in the West as well is so beautiful. It's so beautiful score. So yeah, it's Morricone.
Yeah, I'd have to go with Morricone as well. As much as I enjoy Bernard Herrmann's, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Morricone as well.
There you go, folks. Those are your call-outs for this week. What decisions would you make? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. So Matt, I do keep messing with the calendar. So like next week, I switched it out again. Minari is going to be available, which is another Oscar contender, and I threw in I Care a Lot, which is something I just watched. That's big on Netflix right now.
Okay, we can do that.
We got to get Freaky in there. You have to see Freaky, man. I'm telling you, it is so good. Though I guess my review is pretty much done at this point, right? I've talked about it so much. In the meantime, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and I'm blanking on one. YouTube. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually you will find us. Head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. That'll help other people find the show, and we'll read that baby on the air. And that's it, Matt. So why don't we go ahead? Looks like you need a nap. The little baby needs a nap. I'm going to go ahead and take an extended break, and we'll see you all soon. Take care of yourselves.
There are good ships and wood ships, and ships that sail the sea, but the best ships are friendships, and may they always be.